Welcome back. You're watching Nation at 5 here on CNN News 18. We have some breaking news that's now coming in. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just met with Shubhanshu Shukla is what we're given to understand. But before we get to those details, we'll get you more updates on Prime Minister Modi's phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Prime Minister Modi, in fact, has taken to social media, has taken to X, where he's put out and confirmed that he has, in fact, spoken with President Putin. He said, I thank my friend for his phone call and for sharing insights on his recent meeting with President Trump in Alaska. India has consistently called for a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict and supports all efforts in this regard. That's a confirmation that has come to the fore from Prime Minister Modi. This also comes ahead of the crucial meeting between US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Valdimir Zelensky. Siddhant, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more details. Siddhant, the timing of this phone call between Prime Minister Modi and Vladimir Putin is significant, isn't it?
Well, very, very significant, Poonam, and also this has to do with India's principal position. India has maintained principal position as far as war in Ukraine is concerned, Poonam, from the very beginning, which is that solution needs to be found through dialogue and diplomacy, and any decision taken should be taken in presence of all these stakeholders. Perhaps Prime Minister Modi was the first world leader to tell this to President Putin during the SCO meeting in 2022 that this is not an era of war. So India from a very beginning has played a very, very positive and constructive role when it comes to ending war in Ukraine. In fact, last year when Prime Minister Modi visited Moscow to meet President Putin, perhaps he's the only world leader to sit next to President Putin and tell him that children are dying in the war. So as far as India's role in this conflict is concerned, India has always played a very positive and constructive role, whether it's helping or rather contributing to the Black Sea agreement, which was signed between the two parties. India played role in that as well. And in fact, Prime Minister Modi has always remained in touch with President Putin as far as development in Ukraine is concerned. And now we are getting to know that President Putin has dialed Prime Minister Modi and to share insights on his meeting with President Trump in Alaska. India has consistently called for a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict and supports all efforts in this regard. In fact, Indian government has also come up with a statement supporting meeting in Alaska.
Right.
Also, Poonam, the context to it could be the kind of commentary coming from the Trump administration that one of the factors contributed to bring Putin to the tables for the talk was sanctioning India with 25% additional penalty. So that is what Trump administration has been claiming.
Which is also why these talks between Prime Minister Modi and Vladimir Putin are also significant. Siddhant, do stay on with us. Zaka Jacob also joining us for more perspective. Zaka, do break down this for our viewers of how significant this phone call is, because both Prime Minister Modi and Putin spoke before the Alaska summit and afterwards as well.
Yeah, so I think it's underlining the importance that India is associating with a close and a quick resolution to this Ukraine conflict. Like you said, just before President Putin left for Alaska, he had a phone call with Prime Minister Modi, and now right after returning from Alaska, there's been another phone call just to apprise him of what was discussed between President Trump and President Putin. I think it's very clear that the overall peaceful agreement that President Putin suggested to President Trump, which he believes is the way that Russia wants to end this war, is by asking Ukraine to give up control of nearly, if not all, of Donbass, which is the eastern region where much of the fighting has been happening over the last 3 years. Putin believes that the Donbass historically has been Russian territory. There are Russian-speaking people there. And in any future peace agreement, a Donbass will be the land swap that even President Trump has been referring to. So Donbass is the region that has to be given up by Ukraine if it wants a quick end to this war. India, of course, has huge skin in this game. The additional 25% oil tariffs, the secondary tariffs as it's known, was imposed on India precisely because of the import of Russian oil. India, of course, put out a statement saying it's up to India, and to protect the interests of Indian consumers, India is free to choose where it wants to buy its oil from. It also, in that MEA statement, had pointed out the amount of business that the United States and Russia do, and also the amount of business between Europe and Russia. So clearly, I think India is very much a stakeholder in this, directly, if not indirectly, certainly is a stakeholder because of these secondary tariffs. And you heard from Trump. He said it on multiple occasions in the run-up to Alaska and after the summit with President Putin. His people have been speaking about it. Witkoff, in fact, spoke to CNN and he said the reason why India had to face these sanctions was because of trying to get Putin to the table. So the feeling seems to be that India has very much a huge stake in ending this war and ending this war quickly, because once that happens, once we get to that point where this war can end, then two things happen. One, President Trump can claim credit for ending a significant war on his watch, and two, the strategy of sort of putting sanctions on India or tariffs on India to try and get Russia to concede or Russia to agree to the terms of a peace agreement, that would have been achieved as well. And India would have played a part in that. And as far as India is concerned, like I said, the most important thing is that secondary sanctions will be lifted the moment the story moves in the direction of a peaceful resolution.
And that's the indication that President Trump did give after the Alaska meeting, isn't it, Zakar? Donald Trump did say that Russia lost an oil client, which is India, even though India has made it clear that as far as our needs are concerned, we will continue to buy Russian oil.
Yeah, look, there has been a surge again, and I suspect that's because from the 27th of August, when the secondary tariffs will kick in, India is still hopeful that the Trump administration and President Trump in particular will see some degree of rationality in why India was importing Russian oil. It was to protect the Indian consumer. It was also to protect global prices of oil, which had India not bought it from Russia, it would have led to a spike in oil prices globally, which would have affected Indian consumers, would have affected American consumers. So there's a sound rationale for why India did what it did. But now President Trump has linked that to getting Putin to the negotiating table on favorable terms as he sees it. And the terms will be negotiated today in the White House as well, when President Zelensky meets with President Trump. And then, of course, that will be followed by a barrage of European leaders from France, Italy, Britain. The leaders of all of these countries will also be there because they have their concerns too on this proposed land swap agreement that Trump has been talking about. And they will raise those concerns in that meeting. But ultimately, like I said, for India, the biggest stake is the sooner there is peace, the sooner there is an end to this war, the sooner India will be off the hook on these 25% additional tariffs.
Right, Zaka, thank you so much for getting us that perspective. It is a key phone call between Prime Minister Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin. So